Well, hello and welcome to this overview of the course so far up to this point. The goal of this presentation is to provide you with an overview of all of the projects for the course and to kind of fit them into a framework of the role that technology plays in the practice of educators, and more specifically how the projects for this class can help you learn how technology might improve special education teaching in particular. And you're at a point in the class now where this is a really good time to take a big step back and look at how these projects that you're going to be asked to do can address the goal that you see on the screen, or can address the question that you see on the screen. You've spent some time now working with trying to create something online, trying to create a piece of the web that you can use to communicate something about yourself and also communicate about the class. And everything that you're going to be doing in the class from this point on will be communicated through your own space, your own web space. And you've also got your hands wet using a simple tool, Google Earth Tour or Tour Builder, to help everybody else in the class, including myself, learn a little bit more about you in a way that's creative and interesting and much more enjoyable than just reading a paragraph of text about you. So I'm going to begin this presentation by reminding you that professional educators wear many hats in their job. And the act of teaching is not just about helping people learn important things, but there are also other factors that come into play when you look at what does it mean to be a professional educator. Some of the ways that I can see the value of technology in improving teaching are in the areas of instruction. That is the different ways in which education or in which technology can be used to improve how you might help people learn things. I also believe that technology can be used to help build community in the classroom among all of the participants in the classroom, as well as the other members of the community that are impacted by the classroom experience, including parents, other teachers, other students, other classrooms from around the world, administrators. All of those things all of those types of communities or members of communities can help improve the learning experience for any given classroom. Technology can also be used to help teachers manage all of the aspects of being a teacher a little more comprehensively and a little, in my opinion, a little easier. And finally, technology can be used to help you continually improve your practice, provide you with the research and evaluation tools needed to continually grow as an educator. And I'm sure you've figured this out by now, but even if you're not currently a practicing professional educator, when you do get your first job, you are not going to know how to do everything. That is a fact. And you're going to have to continually improve your practice. Now, I want to talk just a brief moment about something related to how technology can be used to support or improve instruction. And the reason why I want to pull this out is because as special education teachers, there are certain things about technology that you will need to be better versed in than teachers who do not support the learning of students with special needs, at least not in their kind of professional practice. So I want to talk just briefly about adaptive and assistive technologies, because you have a couple of projects in the class related to this, and I sort of want to separate these technologies from how technology in general can be used to improve instruction, because I don't want to confuse the two. Okay, so adaptive and assistive technologies, those two words are often used synonymously, but there's a subtle difference, and I think it's okay to talk about this difference, even though I don't think it matters that much, but it does help to communicate about the different types of resources that you can use to help students who have specific needs. So SpongeBob here is demonstrating an example of an adaptive technology, and that is a piece of technology that's a special version of something that already exists that can help students or people in general with their own specific needs. And so here's SpongeBob with a toothbrush that is made just for his teeth and can help him. Assistive technologies are any type of tool or device that can help people with any kind of disability perform tasks with greater ease and or independence. And actually, it's also things, assistive technologies don't just help people with disabilities, they can help all people. For example, television remote controls are things that make it easier to change channels, usually, if you can find the remote. But different technologies are often considered by their level of technology, and in the special education world, low, medium, and high are often used to describe different types of assistive technologies. But that is an ever-moving target, and you'd be hard-pressed to find any one clear description of what constitutes something that's low technology, middle, or high. Some of the examples on the screen for low include just something that might be able to help somebody hold a pencil a little easier. Mid technologies might involve some type of external power device like batteries or winding up a timer. And then high tech tools, they can include some high-tech hardware as well as software, and certainly just about anything that involves using a computer would probably fit into the high-tech category. So in this class, you're going to be asked to consider different types of adaptive and assistive technologies, or just AT in general, and these really constitute devices that are separate from how you might use technology in general to improve instruction. These are the actual devices that learners would use as they interact within an instructional experience. And so that's what makes it a little bit different. Okay, so in this class, we have a number of projects, and I wanted to just let you know that each of these projects kind of fit into one or more of the categories of the four main categories where I see technology making a difference in terms of their ability to improve instruction. And so, or their ability to improve teaching, I should say. So you've got a number of projects that are associated with specifically improving instruction. A lot of stuff you're going to be doing with your website addresses that. The project you're going to be working on next is trying to use external resources to determine what's worth learning in general. That's a good place to begin this conversation. You're going to be recommending AT technologies. You're going to be using technology to define instructional contexts, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a few minutes, as well as other aspects of what makes instructional experiences effective. You are also going to be looking at ways that technology, in small ways, the ways technology can be used to help build community. Again, just by making a website and making your work public allows your work to become part of the community of the classroom. And in fact, as a public website, it is also part of the global community. You just recently completed an About Me page, which establishing a social presence is one of the first steps in building community, and that's really important. You also should have just completed using web resources to help define who your students with specific needs are in your case classroom. You're also going to do a project that involves using technology tools to help teach students how to collaborate more effectively. And you're also using technology tools. You have projects to help you learn a little bit more about ways technology can be used to help manage the aspects of being a teacher more effectively. And finally, you'll be looking at a few different ways in which technology can be used to help promote your professional development. And again, there are only a few projects in that area, but that's sort of the category where they reside. All right, so now I want to move into how technology can be used to improve instruction in general. I kind of want to give you a broad framework, and I apologize if I'm going to be going rather quickly through the next few slides, because I really don't want this video to take that long, maybe 5 more minutes if I can help it. And this is just to provide you with kind of a big overview of how the projects that you're going to be working on fit into the big goal of examining ways in which technology can be used to improve special ed teaching. Okay, so addressing this particular question, I have to start off by giving you this schematic diagram and talking a little bit about what instruction is. And so you'll notice on the left-hand side of this diagram, here's a person who does not possess a skill set that likely includes what you see depicted on the right-hand side of the screen. That is, this person presumably is working on her reading skills. So reading, I'm just using this as an example. A person goes from not being able to do something to being able to do something by experiencing a number of events that one could consider to be instructional. And it could be formal or informal, but when you talk about the experiences that people have that go from not being able to do something to learning how to do something, some of the common characteristics of those experiences include some type of introduction into the learning experience, having activities and information presented, lots of practice and feedback. Generally, there's some type of a review. At least there are ways you can structure a review to improve the effectiveness of the instructional experience. You also have some other characteristics like scaffolds or support mechanisms and ways to work with others within a learning environment that can influence and affect the overall effectiveness of an instructional experience. And perhaps most importantly, the entire experience itself is situated within a context that provides meaning and purpose for learning the things that you intend to learn. And certainly the context for a little person wanting to learn how to read, the context is really just surviving and enjoying the world around them. That's one of the most obvious contexts there. You'll learn more about that as the class begins. But where do you begin as a teacher trying to improve instruction? I believe all teachers need to begin at the beginning where all teachers start. And that is choosing what you want learners to be able to do forever as a result of being in your care, being in your charge. And in my estimation, one of the values of technology is to be able to use it to access resources to help you learn more about what is worth learning, what's worth learning. And in this class, what's worth learning is going to be described as things that learners will be able to do in their life outside of school that will help them succeed in the real world, or things that they'll need to learn how to do in order to learn other things that will help them succeed. And so it's really important for teachers to focus and identify what those things are for their students. And the reason why it's really important to do this is because there aren't a lot of models of teaching that start at the beginning. For example, here is a very common model for developing learning experiences communicated by Robert Marzano, called The Art and Science of Teaching. It's a common approach. It's similar to a lot of lesson planning experiences that teachers might use. And this is just the front page, the table of contents. And I show this because if you look at Chapter 1, it says, "What will I do to establish and communicate learning goals, track student progress, and celebrate success?" Well, like most models, when you look at what Chapter 1 has to say, there's nothing in Chapter 1 of this book that addresses whether or not your goals are worth learning in the first place. And that is certainly the most important thing that you need to decide as a teacher before you begin to address instruction over specific outcomes. And again, this just summarizes. SKA refers to skills, knowledge, and attitudes. And so I'll give you a moment to look at this Calvin and Hobbes comic about this just because it reinforces some funny things about what's worth learning. Okay, and another thing to consider as educators is that when you identify important things to be learned, whatever the grade level, whoever your learners are, it's important to consider that not only do you want your outcomes to include how learners might do certain things, but also that they would choose to do those things. So attitudinal outcomes are just as important and need to be facilitated. Students need to learn them in the same way they would learn any other skill. And so this screen communicates some of the important or worthwhile learning. So for example, learning how to be creative is one thing that you might value and promote in your class, but also choosing to be creative is another skill that you might help promote as a teacher. Okay, and again, I mentioned earlier, technology can help you make these decisions because technology makes it easier for you to access information about things that might or might not be worth learning. The Common Core standards, it's a contentious area, but there are a lot of things in these documents that can help inform what professionals think are important to be learned. I used to be a science teacher, and I really value the next generation science standards. I think some of them are very, very smart and valuable to help any teacher make good decisions about what experts feel is important to be learned. The Partnership for 21st Century Learning has a great set of skills at their website that communicates things that you might not have thought about regarding information and media skills or innovation skills. And so I get very motivated and informed when I review these types of resources. Also, as far as technology goes, the International Society for Technology and Education has skill sets related to the use of technology for students and teachers that are in some very important areas. I love the very first area, which is identified as student learning and creativity. So again, I know about these resources because I can access them easily online, and that's one of the values of technology in teaching and learning. Okay, now I am gonna go pick up the pace a little because this is already carrying on too long. You are going to do some projects in which you learn a little bit about how technology might be used to help define learning contexts that provide meaning and purpose to the whole experience. It's not just a separate component, but when you talk about how technology can be used to affect context, it affects everything in the learning experience or in the instructional experience. Now, one way to look at the way technology is being used to help influence and define creative contexts or effective contexts is to consider that technology can be used to help define creation contexts, problem-solving contexts, and real or simulation contexts. And there's a lot of overlap between contexts, and there's a lot of subcontexts here. I've put some of them on the screen, and some of them I really value greatly. For example, storytelling is a creative context that can be a very, very powerful way to help students find their voice and also learn some very valuable skills in the areas of language arts and communication. Just a couple of examples of the way technology can be used to define meaningful contexts. There's a wonderful website that uses a Google Earth or the Learning Tour type of technology that you used to introduce yourself, called Google Lit Trips. And so basically they would use a piece of technology like Google Tour Builder and use that to help map where a character moves within a story and then summarize or reflect on some important things that happened in those locations. And so taking a classic text that you would want students to learn about, those types of stories are almost always situated in a place, and the story unfolds within different places and throughout different places, and you can use Google Earth to help you communicate a report that reflects on that. And so that's a wonderful context. Here is a great web page that's quite a few years old right now, but there is a school, I believe in Connecticut, the Morse School, and their third grade students have created a Google site similar to what you have created that provides an overview of what goes on at the school. It's called the Morse Guide, and they created web pages to help other students who might be new to the school learn more about the culture and the day-to-day activity of the school. And in the process of creating this, the third graders had opportunities to interview adults and to write copy-ready material, and it's just a terrific resource. So they were using the internet to help them create something that is real and of value. And that is a great use of technology. There's another website or another organization called the Save Our Streams program in Virginia. And if you go to this website, what you learn is that students throughout Virginia can learn and be trained in monitoring local streams, and following very specific protocol, they can go out and collect data on the biotic and abiotic, or living and non-living factors associated with the stream, and then upload that real data into the website. And the data is collected from streams all over the state of Virginia, and it is used to help map or profile the health of various waterways in Virginia, and it's a real tool. So that's another example of technology being used as a context for learners, being able to do something and to learn a lot about, in this case, biology and technology through that process. Global Aurea is a place where students can go and create games. Invent them, create them, and post them and share them. That's all. That's again, it's a creative opportunity that results in a tangible, actual thing that students can make. Speaking of games, I think a wonderful simulation is a game called the Stock Market Game, and this is really a space for maybe junior high and high schoolers to actually play the stock market with fake money, but it's kind of like fantasy football with stocks. You get your account of fake money, but you're using real data from real stocks every day, and you're learning a lot about economics. There's applied math, interpreting graphs, that kind of thing. So it's a simulation environment that can be used to help promote the learning of really important and worthwhile things. Okay, now technology can also be used not just to affect the overall context, but also to have an influence over how you might introduce a lesson. So getting a little more specific. And although you're not going to do a specific project that addresses this, I just wanted to touch on it briefly. For example, one good way to introduce a new learning experience is to arrange and regularly communicate these sort of conceptual big pictures, and technology can be used to help promote that. For example, when I was a science teacher, I had a slide like the one you're seeing, and it had all these science or organizational terminologies that I would refer to when I was trying to communicate to my students where something that we were learning about fit into this giant conceptual framework. And so my students saw this picture every single day, and so when they were studying something, say, related to evolution, they would know that we were going to be addressing content or concepts that might start off looking at communities of living organisms and how they interact with their environment, with their immediate environment, and what impact their environment has on them and on their survival. And then that might be where the whole idea or the concepts of evolution begin. And that is something that I would fit into this conceptual big picture. You probably have all heard of the Khan Academy online, and on this website, they create these conceptual representations of different things you might learn about in math and how they're connected to other things. And there's a conceptual kind of graphic way that it uses to communicate these different math concepts and how they're related. And that's a good example of a conceptual big picture. And you can use Prezi or PowerPoint or other tools to help you as a teacher create these conceptual pictures. And you're going to actually be using Prezi to help you communicate a big picture about what you think is important for students to learn. And that picture that you create might end up being something that you could use every day with students to help situate what they're learning into a broader picture to help them figure out where they're coming from and where they're headed when it comes to learning new things. Okay, technology can also be used to help promote effective practice and feedback. Again, Khan Academy has a host of of lots of different content area practice items. Having students use technology to get up and do something like this teenager presenting at a TED Talk using technology and actually presenting to an audience, the skills that she's practicing and applying here are absolutely invaluable if you think about it, probably at the top of the worthwhile list. And that's a way that technology is used to help that. And just to finish up here briefly, technology can also be used to help promote the development of scaffolds or support mechanisms, things that can help learners learn, different types of learners learn specific things at specific times. And you're going to be doing a project in class where you do have to create a scaffold using technology that would help some learners support them in accomplishing tasks and learning what you want them to learn in the classroom. I use, when I work with small groups of students in the classroom, I like to use software, a scaffolding software, to help organize groups and group members in managing their projects that they're doing. And so I like to use project management software. That's a good example of technology as a scaffold. Wikipedia is a great scaffold because you can go to it when you need to help get some clarity or find a starting point for learning about new things. It's certainly not the end-all in presenting information about specific content, but it's not a bad start or a bad beginning. Wolfram Alpha is also a place that will show you how to solve certain kinds of problems. Its guts are related to mathematics, but it's kind of fun. You can go to Wolfram Alpha and just type in any question and see how it responds. It's interesting. And scaffolding, rubrics are ways to scaffold learners for complex projects, because it provides an overview of what's expected, and you can use it as a conceptual guide and as a thinking guide to help you self-evaluate as you're developing material. I think the projects in this class need these, and I'm going to try my best to do a better job of presenting these for the projects in the class. And finally, again, I'm just touching on a few things, but technology can be used to help students review a subject area by maybe presenting a graphic overview of a body of content, what they learned and how they learned it. That's not a bad way to use technology. Here's a screenshot of a Prezi that does this, somebody learning something about elements and then zooming in and looking at the relationship between concepts when learning about something like elements. Also just reviewing can be used to help. You can use technology to help kind of get a sense of where students are at in terms of their thinking, and there are instant polling and other resources like that. So technology can be used in broad or specific ways to help support the instructional process, So what's next in this class is to really dive into and to have you do a couple of projects that are specific to the students that you profiled in your case study. And so what is immediately next for you is to use technology, more specifically you'll use Prezi, to help you create a graphic overview of what is worth learning for your case class. And then you're also going to use technology to help you search and to help you recommend specific adaptive and/or assistive technologies for the students with special needs in your case class. And that is what is next. So that's a quick overview, at least I hope you thought it was quick, on where we're at in the class, where you're at right now and where you're headed in the next couple of weeks.